Today we're going to talk about adding and subtracting positive and negative numbers. It can be really tricky. Usually when we add, numbers get bigger, and when we subtract, numbers get smaller. But when we deal with negative numbers, all of a sudden they're going to do crazy things. So today I'm going to talk about a couple of different tools that you can use to help you add and subtract positive and negative numbers. The first method we're going to talk about uses the number line. Numbers to the left always are getting smaller, and numbers to the right are always getting bigger. So let's take a look at a sample problem. Let's say I had 2 plus negative 5. Each part of this problem is going to give me a certain set of directions or steps to follow. Before we get started, we also need to do something very important. We need to make a little mini-me. So I'm going to very quickly draw a little mini-me on my pointer finger. So let's take a look at this problem. The first number, 2, tells me where I'm going to start on the number line. So I'll start at the 2. The addition sign tells me which way I'm going to face. Since I'm adding, I'm going to face towards the bigger numbers. So like this. Next, I look and see if the second number is positive or negative. In this case, it's negative. This tells me that I'm going to walk backwards, or this direction. The last number tells me how many spots I'm going to walk in that direction. So let's put it all together. I start at 2. I'm adding, so I face that way. I have a negative number, so I'm going to work my way this way, 5 spots. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I ended up at negative 3. So the answer to 2 plus negative 5 is negative 3. Let's try another problem. Okay, let's try this problem. Let's start with a negative number this time. Let's say I had negative 3 plus 4. I'm going to start at negative 3, the first number. I'm adding, so I'm going to face this way. This number is positive, so I'm going to go forward 4 spots. 1, 2, 3, 4. I ended up at positive 1. That is my answer. Let's get a little bit trickier. All right, let's try 2 minus negative 2. This one's a little bit trickier. The 2 tells me to start at 2. I'm subtracting, so I'm going to face this way. I have a negative number, which means I'm going to walk backwards 2 spots. 1, 2. I ended up at positive 4. Now this is kind of weird. We're subtracting, but we ended up with a bigger number because we're subtracting a negative. Let's try one more problem. This time everything is going to be negative. Negative 2 minus negative 3. As always, first number tells us where to start. Negative 2. I'm subtracting, so I'm going to face towards the smaller numbers, my left. I have negative 3, so I'm going to walk backwards 3 spots. 1, 2, 3. And I end up at positive 1. Just to do a quick review, let's talk about what each number tells us to do. The first number always tells us where to start on the number line. So in this case, at 2. The operation symbol tells me which way I'm going to face. If I'm adding, I always face towards the right, towards the bigger numbers. If I'm subtracting, I always face left, towards the smaller numbers. If the second number is positive, I'm always going to walk forwards. However, if it's negative, I'm going to walk backwards. And finally, the last number always tells us how many spots we're going to walk either forwards or backwards. I hope that this video was beneficial and gave you another tool to use when adding and subtracting positive and negative numbers. They can be really confusing because we're so used to adding and getting a bigger number, subtracting and getting a smaller number. That's not always the case when we do positive and negative numbers.